what I would say with the material from the book, or if they wanted to meet with me, I would say first and foremost, honor yourself on a level that's not necessarily about your doing. We live in a world that wants us to do,
Yes.
go, do. And,
Yeah.
and we have these concepts. It goes back to that concept. I have the concept of, work-life balance, I'm my beingness. And it's really about, how are you honoring your being? What is it that you want to create? If what you want to be has a lot of doing to it, then great. Then by all means be that, so that the doing gets done. But a lot of people, they're kind of on a prescriptive path, and entrepreneurs, we wear so many hats.
Yeah.
I'm an entrepreneur, so, it's one of those things where we got so many different hats, and we're juggling so many of those hats that sometimes we don't realize which hat we're wearing at what time.
Yeah.
And so I would say, for someone out there who's struggling and frustrated, slow down.
Yeah. I would
Slow
agree with
down to
that.
speed up.
Hello, my extraordinary women friends. I am excited about today's conversation because it's not every day that I get to sit down with a friend and a neighbor for this podcast. Tim Salmans is someone I deeply respect. His wisdom around conscious leadership, decision making, and tapping into our divine ability is something we all need more of in our lives. Tim's work is centered on helping people make better choices, whether in business, leadership, or life. And let's be real, the choices we make shape everything. The businesses we build, the relationships we nurture, and the way we lead ourselves and others. His insights are powerful for entrepreneurs looking to scale their businesses with clarity and alignment, and for anyone ready to step into a more intentional way of leading and living. Tim recently wrote his new book, Inner Wisdom, Outer Impact, Leading Your Life from the Inside Out. And today we'll dive into what inspired it and how its message can help us all. Let's meet Tim Salmans. Well, welcome to Extraordinary Women Radio. Tim, I am thrilled to have you here today.
Thank you very much for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
You bet. We've had a handful of men join us here on the show, and they've all been truly amazing, extraordinary men, and you're joining the ranks of some great ones. So I'm thrilled that you're here to share. I know you've just launched your book. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's exciting. It's a new reality,
Yeah. A lot of good work. And we'll dive into that here in just a little bit. And it's fun having your neighbor down the street from us. We know each other we become friends through eWomen Network, and so it's awesome to have you here. One of the things I've heard you say is that the divine ability that flows through each and every one of us is exponentially greater than our limited thinking can allow. I love that statement. What does that mean to you?
What does that mean to me? Well, to be humbled. We're all walking this planet and trying to survive, thrive, coexist, and sometimes we forget that what we think isn't always the truth. It's that awareness of, we do things out of protective mode, and there is a greater source that fuels us, that feeds us. One of the things that has crossed my path numerous times throughout my life is, when I was a little kid, I had this connection. I had this, and when I mean little kid, I'm talking 2, 3, maybe 4 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that all children really kind of come into this world with a greater sense of truth, knowledge, and awareness. And then we get conditioned, and we have to adapt to the world around us. And in that process, it goes dormant. That divinity, that uniqueness, and the opportunity is for us, as we get old enough and as we start to bump our heads and skin our knees a little bit in life, then we start to realize, wait a minute, there's something here I still value. There's something here I'm fighting for.
Yeah.
But what is it?
And when you talk about divinity, what does that mean to you?
Good question. I think it's the source for me. It's the source that has me take that next breath. It's the source that has me appreciate the simple things. as well as appreciate the magnificent, amazing things that people can do and create in this world. Divinity is, it's humbling yourself. I mean, not, I don't have anything with religion, but for me, religions are like languages.
Mm-hmm.
They're languages of the world, and they speak to people, and that's good. It helps certain people, but it's just a language.
Yeah.
There's a greater source that is above all that, and I think that's when we can actually get in relationship with that
Mm-hmm.
and have some awe and some appreciation for each other,
Yeah.
then we can do that not only for ourselves but for others.
Yeah. I always play with the moments of awe, trying to practice every day, like appreciating moments of awe around me, right? Like catching those and capturing those, just to remind myself that that's there. And I think that, for me, when I think of that, it's, I work with my horses with my clients on some occasions, right? And so then the horses really bring in this different language, if you will,
Mhm.
to somebody's exploration and uncovering. So I totally can get where you're going with this. Tell us a little bit about your journey into, like, really, getting to this place that you're at, that prompted you to write this book. And your book is called Inner Wisdom, Outer Impact: Leading Your Life from the Inside Out. What is your story that really brought you to this place in your life where you felt like this was a message you needed to be carrying forward?
Well, the crux of it is I got to be in my mid 20s and had an experience what I'll call as my own soul death.
Mm,
I had gone through a lot of, you know, growing up and trials and tribulations through life. And what I realized was I was pretty much bankrupt. Personally, I still I believe in magic.
mhm,
I'll just throw it out there. And what I mean by magic is when you have a certain bond or a certain connection with another person, space, animal, whatever it is, that's magic. It's,
mhm,
you know, if you can bottle that, by all means do, but most people can't. It's something that you have to experience, you have to be present for.
mhm.
And when I was bankrupt, right around 26, 27 years old, I was doing everything I thought I was supposed to be doing.
And when you
Um,
say bankrupt, do you mean like emotionally bankrupt?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I had already been self-destructive. I
Uh-huh.
was, um, going back into my early history, in the book, I talk about labels. Well, one of the labels that was given to me was in first grade, and I was considered learning disabled. Didn't know what that meant. They didn't talk about dyslexia at that point. They didn't talk about, ADHD, any of that. It was like I was learning disabled. So I got pulled out of a classroom and I got put into an office with a woman that handed me a book and basically said, "Teach yourself."
Oh, geez.
And yeah, yeah. And I was like, is this how life is? And so I kind of figured out how to finagle and do things. And luckily I was good at sports. So sports actually, I would thrive in that arena as a young kid. Um, but in school I was limping along and avoiding homework and avoiding things that would, you know, get me into trouble. So then what I realized, fast forward into when I was 20, mid 20s, was that I had developed this very incredible skill of being a chameleon.
Mm,
And being adaptable and fluid can be a very powerful tool, but not when it's your autopilot. When
right.
it's your autopilot, there's no pilot. And what I realized was the soul death was I was putting on a great show for the world around me and everybody else, but I was struggling. I was empty. And that was a hard thing to be with at the time because what did it mean? What did it mean about me if I gave in to the fact that I wasn't what everybody thought I was. I wasn't
Hmm.
perfect. I wasn't, and I know that I'm definitely not the only soul on this planet that's had this experience. So,
Right. Right.
and, that just opened up the crack it was exploring the light that continued to come through that crack that um, gave me awareness, gave me wisdom, gave me opportunity to grow even deeper in areas I couldn't have expected. So life has
Mm-hmm.
grown me very well.
Nice, nice. And so your book is really kind of bringing that wisdom forth, kind of.
Yeah, it's in the early. There's three sections. In the first section, it's really about highlighting how we are commonly as human beings, what influences us, what actually affects our everyday patterns, how do we engage with the world. It's common everyday practices, but we take our experiences for granted, we take our talent for granted, we take ourselves for granted, and we also use the labels that we've collected, whoever it is, they use the labels as a protective mechanism, as a defense mechanism. And what they think is, you know, it's a protective thing, but it's really us trapping ourselves.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's when that just kept coming down to me, I was like going, because this book came to me for about 8.5 years before I finally started to even put it together. I was like,
yeah.
okay, great. This is good information. Why do I need it?
And why do
You
you
know,
think you were chosen for that message?
um, because I believe in magic. I
Yeah.
believe that, I've had a lot of situations where I've been with people who have been in traumatic situations. We're in a world. I guess part of the reason why I started to write the book was I kind of saw culturally in the world sort of in this downward spiral of a degree of righteousness and energetic repulsion of one another.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no ownership. There was no
Mm-hmm.
accountability. It was always pointing fingers. And for me, the reason why I wrote it is it's like going, you can blame everyone else all you want, but until you start to look in the mirror and do your own work,
Mm.
it's never going to change.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I like that. I know a lot of what you do is really helping people make better choices. What are some of the biggest mistakes people make when facing big decisions in their lives?
One of the, I, I'm going to go with my gut instinct. They think of themselves too much.
Mm.
Our egos, we all have egos.
Yeah.
And when we talk about ego, we think of it as one solid entity. But the truth is no, it has many layers the same way life has many layers. And our egos, the base element of our ego is our healthy ego. It's what
Mm-hmm.
keeps us alive. It's what keeps us from not burning down the house, not stepping in front of a bus, not, you know, doing things that are detrimental to our physical well-being. We need that. It's essential. There is the essence of personal appreciation in that part of our ego.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is the rest of the ego, which is the majority of the ego, is our um, kind of lower ego. It's a destructive, dominant, toxic ego, and
Mm-hmm.
that seeks validation.
Mm-hmm.
And so when people come to these situations where they're challenged,
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes the first place they go to is their fortress of protection,
Mm-hmm.
rather than learning how to trust in their ability, in their skill, in what has come to them before that they have handled, but aren't actually in the physical energy of.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what I love about the work is I did this book, and now that it's out there, it's a real blessing because I was never one person. I was never the person that was like, I have to go write a book, right? That was not
Mm-hmm.
my thing. But is the book is really just a seed for this information. You had said something earlier, Cami, about practice. This is a seed that has the ability to grow deep, strong roots if people are willing to practice the information.
I like that. I like that. So the when we're up against, when we're making decisions, how do we know which ego is showing up for us? I mean, what are some clues that it's the higher level or the lower level ego?
What I find is I talk about our divinity
Mm-hmm.
inside of ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really having that relationship with who you are at
Mm-hmm.
your base essence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, because, both elements of the ego are always going to be sort of playing with each other. That's why you practice with it to really gain an awareness. But what I'll say is, it's what is the focus that you want to create. Remember, life is a creative process. Are we engaged? Are we present? Are we creating in the process? Because
Mm.
oftentimes people are in their patterns, which is the ego looking
Oh,
for
yeah.
validation.
I can see that. It's like we get into these patterns, these habits that we're doing versus being in that creative state where we can actually feel and hear and connect into our decisions in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I like
there's
that.
there's a lot to play with here. It's for I don't know if it's I don't know that we've said this yet, but for 35 years I've been a professional actor, even though I've done all this other
No,
work
we
and all
haven't
these other.
said that. I didn't even know
Yeah.
that. Where do
Yeah.
you act?
Well, now I act professionally in my experiential trainings. I get hired to go create
I did know
experiences.
that. Right. Yeah.
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 So, but for years I was on stage or doing independent films or things like that, commercials. But the one thing that I did for about 17, 18 years was I would do it was an experiential training where I portrayed a sexually abused little boy,
Oh, wow.
and I would be interviewed by police officers, forensic interviewers, and caseworkers to go through this protocol and talk about a university like Life University.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't have probably learned this in school. Was when I had to make the space real by stepping into the child, and they were always almost 9 out of 10 times, I'm not going to be able to relate to you. You're a grown man. But what was funny is at the end, what I commonly heard was, wow, I didn't think I'd be able to relate to you, but I was able to drop in.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yeah. So the great thing is I was able to create this space, this interaction, this experience by putting my little child out there and bringing it to life.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to step back in my mind and use that child as a tool for the training and witness what was the objective of the interviewer, what was the objective of the investigator. And I can tell you, like 9 out of 10 times, they 10 out of 10 times they came in usually with the best intentions. 9 out of 10 times they got in their own way.
Mm.
It was one of those things where had they really trusted this child, had they really trusted themselves, had they really trusted the process, they would have gotten all the information they needed to make the right decision on the case. But I would see people make cases that were never there, shouldn't have never been there, because they made it about them and they went down a certain rabbit hole. And that's what our ego does to us, is we can show up and in that process, this is weird, but I always remember saying we don't need a hero.
Mm-hmm.
Heroes create villains. Heroes
Mm-hmm.
create situations to make themselves look good.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you really look at what a real hero is, it isn't somebody who's seeking a title or somebody who wants glorification. It's somebody who is present, creating in the process, and responding.
Mm.
Period.
I love that so much. It's and I can see where we can get in our own way if we're really pushing towards an outcome or we're trying to show up and like project how we're showing up, um, versus being like very present in that moment and being connected. And that's the word that kept coming up for me as you were describing this, is like if we can really deeply connect to
Mhm.
whoever's sitting across from us and also to ourselves in the mix of this, we have different outcomes.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Connection's huge, and to realize that we are a key element to creating that connection.
Yeah.
That's oftentimes is people assume that they'll have a connection or that the connection should be there, and it's like, no, bring yourself to the experience. And I know this stuff. It doesn't mean I don't step all over myself too.
Right.
I'm
Right.
like, oh, there I go again, doing this, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your work, because I think your work is really interesting, that like the work that you do on a day-to-day basis beyond the book. So tell us more about that.
well, I do consulting, I do coaching, but I do more consulting and experiential training.
Mm-hmm.
I have a variety of different clients. I've been branching out more into the private sector, probably in the last year and a half, to bring what I've been doing in the public sector, or the government sector for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So really kind of bringing that out, and it's through experiential learning that I really feel that people start to affect behaviors.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like the book itself, like I said, it was a seed, but the book is really a companion to our 3-day immersive experiences that we're going to be doing moving forward, with this book as a reference book, a
Mm-hmm.
reference material.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really one of those things of saying, here, come with us for 3 days, escape into yourself.
Mm-hmm.
This is 3 days for you to really start to get experience of what we're talking about. Yeah, we'll be talking concepts, but that's the reason why I do experiential learning. Is I am one of the biggest um, infractions of thinking that because I know something, I have it.
Mm.
And I've done that throughout my whole life. It's like, oh, I have this information, I have this, or I have this equipment, or whatever it is, and then I don't use it, or I hardly ever use it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I fool myself. And for me, that's why experiential learning is it goes directly to participating in the behavioral growth, in the behavioral change. And so that's what we try to do when I do one-on-one consulting and coaching. We find out what is it that somebody is, where are they at, where do they think they should be, and what is it that's in the way of them predicting where they should be. So, like, what are the labels? What are the concepts? What are the expectations? What's the programming and conditioning that they're buying into that may not really be theirs?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why we do a lot of leadership
Yeah.
training, because we talk about authentic leadership, but I see so much leadership that isn't really leadership; it's really management.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's one of those false. I'm a leader. I'm a leader. No, you're managing. You're not really, you know, cultivating or growing these individuals to be leaders themselves. You're
Yeah.
maintaining.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So really, and that starts from with that leader really doing their inner work to start with, so that they can go
absolutely,
out and do the work, but help their teams and be the leader for their teams as well.
absolutely.
Yeah, I like that. So for entrepreneurs and business owners, how can they use your insights to really scale their businesses for more clarity and alignment?
Um, what I would say with the material from the book, or if they wanted to meet with me, um, I would say first and foremost, honor yourself on a level that's not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily about your doing.
Mm-hmm.
We live in a world that wants us to do,
Oh
go,
God,
go,
yes.
go, do. And,
Yeah.
you know, and we have these concepts. It goes back to that concept. I have the concept of, work-life balance. I'm my beingness. And it's really about, how are you honoring your being? What is it that you want to create? If what you want to be has a lot of doing to it, then great.
Mm-hmm.
Then by all means be that, so that the
Mm-hmm.
doing gets done.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people, they're kind of on a prescriptive path,
Mm-hmm.
and entrepreneurs, we wear so many hats.
Yeah.
I'm an entrepreneur, so it's one of those things where we got so many different hats, and we're juggling so many of those hats that sometimes we don't realize which hat we're wearing at what time.
Yeah.
And so I would say, for someone out there who's struggling and frustrated, slow down.
Yeah. Right.
Slow down to
That.
speed up.
Yeah. All day long. All day long. So what's a tip you can give us out of your book or out of your work that really helps us connect into that divinity, connect into that knowingness from within, that that inner us inside out. What's
Yeah.
something that our listeners could do?
This is a big one. I've had some people who may be challenged by it and have admittedly said that they couldn't do this for themselves. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a practice that I try to do once a week, at least once every 2 weeks, is I look in the mirror, I create a space of gratitude and appreciation
Mm-hmm.
for myself,
Mm-hmm.
and I ask myself, how full of BS am I?
That's awesome.
Really? We do not get
That's a
real.
humbling question, right?
Yeah. We do
Yeah.
not get real with ourselves enough.
Yeah.
And usually we're trying to protect ourselves, which is understandable, but
Yeah.
that's outside of that divine authentic truth. Like when we really honor, wow, I'm cheating myself here. I'm shortchanging myself there. And I know I love myself, but why aren't I doing what needs to be done?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's just acknowledging, well, the world keeps telling me to do this and I don't want to. Then great. You just got clarity for yourself, for your authentic self to say, quit doing everything that the world wants me to do and do me. Be
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Good. That's a great one. I love it. I love it. So, where can people learn more about you, learn more about your book?
Well, they could check me out on the website. Website is insightsforchoice.com. And that's insights number 4 choice.com.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get in touch with me, it's Tim at insightsforchoice.com. And the book is on Amazon. It's also on several other distribution platforms, but definitely on Amazon. And how else to get a hold? Well, they can always give me a phone call, 720-560-2571 if you're interested.
There you go.
So
Like that. I like it. And then the final question I always close with are, what are 3 pearls of wisdom you'd like to leave with us today?
first pearl, and this is in the book, is practice standing up for your possibilities.
Mm,
Human nature has us fight for our limitations far too much. So
I
stand up
like
for your
that a lot.
possibilities.
Yeah.
Um, recognize your own labels.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to recognize other people's. Recognize your own labels so that you can have influence and factor over them.
Cool.
And the third one I'll leave with is this: is you are magic. You are divine. There is something that has had you here for all the days, weeks, months, and years that you're here. There is a reason for that.
Love
Stand
it.
in it, lean into it, and love it. Yeah. So
Awesome.
thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tim. I really appreciate you joining us today, and congratulations on your book. I know it's a labor of love to put a book out into the world. So congratulations, and
Thank you.
thanks so much for joining us today.
Much appreciation. Thank you very
You
much.
bet.